Welcome back, everyone, to the third live stream on this channel. Today's stream, we're going to be talking about a handful of things, but obviously there was this horrifying mass shooting that happened in Nashville yesterday. We're going to be talking about that, as well as the media response and the response from the left and the right. Talking about also Antifa and the trans movement, how that movement has radicalized over the last 6 to 12 months, even more than it had before. And before we jump into that, I do have to talk about the locals community. You guys hit that link down below in the description, jamesklug.locals.com if you're not a member already. It's free to join, and it takes just seconds to sign up. If you do want to sign up, though, and you want to contribute monthly, you can pay as little as $5 a month. That's jamesklug.locals.com. I have right here, actually, for you guys. We did just release the Locals exclusive post-filming wrap-up, initial thoughts after filming. Should Americans pay slavery reparations? Which we'll probably be going over a little bit more in depth on Thursday's stream. But you can see that footage exclusively here on Locals. Now, joining me tonight, we have a couple great guests. Billboard Chris and Lisa Elizabeth. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hi guys, good. How are you?
Thank you guys for joining me. Really appreciate it. So I wanted to bring you guys both on to talk about kind of the media response to everything that's been going on, this horrifying mass shooting. Also, the response from the left, and also talking about the response from the right, and just talking about the trans movement, the gender theory movement as well. I know, Chris, you have a lot of experience in this area. That's literally what you focus on every single day. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'm sure you're going to be adding a lot of, interesting personal experiences within what you're doing. And then also we'd love to hear a little bit of the progress that you're making across the nation, shining light on how children cannot consent to medical transition. But you guys, I pulled up this article from Human Events, and I wanted to focus on this because this is from Libby Emmons. The trans vengeance movement has led to a series of assaults and now the murder of Christian children. We're going to talk about how radical the movement's gotten, also talk about who's at fault here, obviously the shooter, and then talk a little bit about, like I said, the media response. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and dig into this a little bit, and then we'll get the conversation going. But I guess actually before I do that, welcome to the chat, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys for watching. Do we have any familiar faces in the chat? Nico's off camera right here as well.
I don't see anybody. I know a couple of the names. I don't see anybody that super sticks out.
I saw someone saying, is it Klug, pronounced Klug or Klug or Klug? It's Klug. So just to clarify that.
I don't know how to show the chat.
We'll figure it out. This is you can bring, if you want to bring it up on your phone, Chris, you can pull up the chat and just like silence your phone, and you can just have it streaming in front of you. This is all kind of new to me too,
Yeah.
So we're still all learning
I'm on my
the
phone.
stream together. So no big deal. If you're on your phone, you might be out of luck, man. I don't know.
That's okay.
I'll let
No
you know
worries.
if anyone says anything though regarding anything that you're talking about. We'll kind of dig through that. But what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the stream. So we have here that article from Libby Emmons. A shooting at the Christian Covenant School in Nashville on Monday was carried out by a woman who identified as transgender, dressed in a backward ball cap, camo pants, and a vest. Audrey Hale shot out the doors at the school and wandered around seemingly aimlessly looking for people to kill as the alarms blared. Speculations mounted on social media that Hale's status as a trans person contributed to the anger that led to the shooting, while drawings done by Hale, an artist and an illustrator, made their rounds as just as Hale's social media accounts were scrubbed. Little bit suspicious there. Now, we're still waiting at this very moment. I know there's like still breaking news stories happening surrounding this, of course. It's all very fresh, but we're still waiting on a manifesto. You guys haven't seen anything released on that yet, right?
No, I haven't seen anything.
Okay, so we're still waiting on that. That could drop tonight, unlikely, but that's one thing that we are waiting for. Now, it says right here, it's not clear if Hale being trans played into the motive to murder 3 children and 3 adults. But what's clear is that the violence and calls for violence from the very vocal camp of trans activists. And Chris, I know we'll talk a lot about that as well. A group called Trans Resistance Network has taken some claim to the crime, saying that they that while they do not claim to know the individual or have access to their inner thoughts and feelings, they do know that life for transgender people is very difficult and made more difficult in the preceding months by a virtual avalanche of anti-trans legislation and public call-outs by right-wing personalities and political figures for nothing less than the genocidal eradication of trans people from society. So, Chris, I figured we kind of unpack what they're talking about here when it comes to this viewpoint. This viewpoint among these groups, I would say, is largely shared among these people. Would you agree with that? You talk to people on the street all the time talking about how children cannot consent to medical transition. They're talking about how they're under attack, they're being erased. Would you say that most people that you speak with that are for surgically transitioning children would share this viewpoint, or no? I'm actually really curious.
Yeah, I was just at the legislature at the Florida State Capitol yesterday, testifying in support of a bill that is going to ban child transition. And I listened to probably 30 opponents of the bill walk up. And probably out of that 30, there were probably 20 who said that this is life-saving care and that if they do this, kids are going to kill themselves. Guess how much data they showed to support that? None. I've heard this claim 100,000 times, and I've yet to see one actual scientific-based study to support it. If there were any studies to support this myth that children are killing themselves because they have to go through puberty, we would see it. It would be shoved in our faces all the time. There is none of this data, and in fact, all data that we do have points to the opposite, which is that suicides go up. But the leftist media and the government officials have to claim some responsibility for creating an environment where these people think they're under attack. No one's calling for a genocide. There's a whole bunch of parents that say we shouldn't sterilize and mutilate children. That's it.
Well, and you know what's so interesting? You bring that up. We did a video together, and I'm sure a lot of people have watched it. We were, basically making that argument of children shouldn't be doing this. This should obviously, it seems like just common sense that children shouldn't be like medically transitioning, let alone socially transitioning, but medically transitioning. And I think that was my first time actually digging deep into this topic, and that was with you. And I think within that day alone of talking to people, I probably heard that it was medical transition, chemically castrating kids, surgically mutilating them. I heard that, or death probably 10 times within just us chatting with people. So it's super, super common just from my one day of really digging deep into it. I've done a few videos surrounding it, but just when that one day with us, it was our way or literal death. And that's the way that these people are thinking. They think that not only is it death to them, but people are after them. People are killing them. And there's government officials that are promoting this lie.
So
yes, 100%.
Oh, sorry, Chris. I just want to
do it.
I just want to jump in here. We saw this happen too with race relations in America. They were saying, cops are killing African Americans at record rates, and the data didn't support any truth to that whatsoever. And you see that race relations have continuously deteriorated since then. And so they're doing the same thing with with transgender issues, with Christians, with conservatives, and you see those tensions building and continue to build until there's going to be some explosions. There has to, across the board, there has to be some toning down of the rhetoric. But the media is responsible for this, and so are legislators. Legislators want to fundraise and get money, and the media wants to have people afraid and constantly tuning in. And unless we find a way to fix that and to really calm down the rhetoric and actually look at the statistics and the numbers and take them seriously, it's only going to continue to get worse. And this is just another thing on the line of all of this continuing to happen down the line. That's all I want to say.
Literally so true. And I think a lot of people might be so literal in looking at it, saying, oh, well, okay, they're taking advantage of this group of people, and it's just that group of people that are being affected and joining that movement. And, because they constantly are looking for the next boogeyman, whether there's several or just one or two, similar to the race situation, they will create that boogeyman. They will create that divide. But it's not just the people that are believing that it's not just like people that are saying that they're transvestites or whatever that are being affected. This is they're stoking this divide, and they're creating this boogeyman to get other people that don't quite understand the issue. Like, people hear gender affirming care, quote unquote, and they're like, well, what's wrong with that, Chris? What's wrong with that? They might not even be in that group of people, but they're still being won over by the lies. And they do the same thing, like Lisa just brought that up. That's perfect. They do the same thing when it comes to race as well. You don't have to be black to buy into their propaganda and lean towards the left to vote for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give you a real life example from just 2 or 3 days ago. I was on the campus of Florida State University. I was there again today, but I was with January Littlejohn, who's a mom from Florida, whose school tried to transition her daughter without her knowledge. And this young guy walked up to me, and he started talking, and he was literally shaking. Now, this happens all the time. People get this adrenaline rush, and they can't help it, but their body's shaking a little bit.
For sure.
Sometimes their face is ticking. And right away, he started comparing DeSantis to Adolf Hitler because he wants to ban books. And he went on this long run about the parallels between Nazi Germany and what's going on today. And I said, hold on, no one's trying to ban books, but obviously some books are age appropriate for elementary school children and some books aren't. Do you think we should have porn in an elementary school? Do you think we should have the book Genderqueer, where there's a boy giving a blowjob to another boy wearing a dildo, or a girl wearing a dildo? Sorry, obviously. And he came back to this 3 or 4 times about banning books. And I finally said to him at one point in the conversation, I said, do you think there are any books that are not age appropriate for an elementary school? And he said, well, of course. I go, so you want to ban books? And he went, good point.
Well, I love that. And you're always so calm. I remember, like, my first introduction to you, Chris, we were, actually, you guys are kind of polar opposites, aren't you?
I get all heated, angry, and I'm a woman, though. Like, women are inherently emotional. We should embrace it and accept it. That's who we are.
I think it's both of you guys are super fun to film with. Obviously, I filmed with both of you. And Chris, my first time filming with you, you're very calculated, but you're very, very calm. More calm than me, right? And that's like the perfect kind of question. You run through that question with them. So many people buy into it's all about like catchphrases. How many, when these politicians are fighting these battles, how many things can they make into 3, 4, or 5 words? And then, yes, it can be destroyed by somebody asking, okay, dig deeper. But most people aren't going to do that, right? So that guy was a great example. Oh, they're banning books, right? That spreads like wildfire. Literally spreads like wildfire. All you have to say is, what books? Like, let's talk specifics. Yeah. What are you talking about? And
do you think there are any books that elementary school kids should read? Well, of course. But if this was on Twitter, though, this conversation would have lasted 8 seconds. He would have been calling me a Nazi, and I would have blocked him. But because it's in real life, we were able to have a conversation. And after 15 minutes, he was smiling. We were all having a great time. He was agreeing with everything we said, because conversations between people bring people together. But all the media and these, especially the Democratic politicians, do is try to stoke division.
That is huge. That is huge. It's not always about dunking on people. Go in there curious to learn and to teach as well. But also, people, I mean, obviously, not everyone's like that, right? Not everyone's going to be like that. But there are a lot of people out there that are buying the propaganda that can be saved. And that's why we do it, right? That's why we do it. Because, look, it's like, oh, how many people are watching, let's say, your videos or my videos, or let's say Lisa's on a show talking about something. How many people are watching that and actually maybe on the fence and then change their mind? I would say it could be a small percentage, but over time, and even if it is a small percentage, 10 people saved with one video? That's fantastic. Or change their minds with one conversation? That's fantastic. And so, there are still people out there that can definitely be saved in this battle for protecting children. I would say the vast majority of people are just totally ignorant, honestly.
Here's what I worry about, though. Yeah. I do think that you can change people's minds with the facts and rational conversation. The problem is that people always want to be accepted by their peers and whatever. And so while they may now agree with you they go out into the real world and they won't stand up. They won't fight about it. They won't do anything about it because they're so afraid of being isolated. I have talked to so many moms over, the last couple of months about these type of issues. And they say, I feel isolated here. I'm afraid to talk. I'm afraid to speak out. I'm afraid my child will be targeted at school. I'm afraid to do anything. So we have to kind of get people not only, to understand our side, but to actually see how devastating the consequences are of these things and get them to act. Like, I think that there needs to be a push to get them to really start standing up and doing something about it.
Right. I would say, honestly, that has to do with cultural pressure for sure. So like if you're seeing people, it's the same thing on Twitter, right? You're seeing people with a certain take, and what happens when one person has that take? Then maybe 2, then 3, then all of a sudden 15, you feel a lot more comfortable expressing that take. Right. Even if you were trying to figure out maybe in the beginning or whatever it may be, it definitely is your surroundings. I don't know how, if somebody's surrounded by the left all the time, I don't know how you get them to break out of that bubble, aside from them just maybe cracking at one point and realizing that friend group will either accept you for having that opinion or they'll totally eliminate the friendship. You guys, I do have a super chat here from Bungle Bush for $9. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. He says, I'm not tribal. That gets me in trouble sometimes, but the left and right use current events to support their agenda. I would say largely true. The right with border crisis and fentanyl, left gun violence and gun control. I don't know if I agree with that so much. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. It's not like there's, I would say if there was no difference in the increase in illegal crossings at the southern border, not trying to get super off topic here, but I will address this really quick. If there was no increase and it wasn't breaking records right now, I would give you the, okay, maybe. They're just trying to win political points. That's not the case. We're breaking literal records at the southern border when it comes to pretty much every department for illegal immigration. But I guess we could talk more about the fentanyl, gun violence, etc. The people that do leverage, the people that do leverage the when it comes to any violent act using a firearm, largely would be the left for sure. You could look at this case and be like, is the right talking about it more because of what of who it was? But I would say it's more to do with who they targeted and what the ideology could have been or could be with that individual. What do you guys think?
So all the time, it's been written about me in major media pieces. It's Christo-fascists who are leading the way, trying to start a genocide of trans people. I'm not even religious. The mayor of Boston said I was a white supremacist on a tour of terror when I held a little protest there with 10 moms, most of whom were lifelong Democratic voters. And none of the media even came over to talk to us. They talked to all these 200 Antifa people on the other side of the street, actual domestic terrorists like Alejandro Caraballo, who says that none of the Supreme Court justices should ever know a moment of peace, no matter where they go. This is who the media is celebrating. So they're creating this mentality in these young people who are easily manipulated and lied to. And it's not even their fault. This is the only media they ever get. Of course, they're going to believe a lot of this stuff. But what we've seen is, especially lately, is this huge uptick in violence from trans activists. And it's always from one end to the other. It's never from conservatives committing any crimes against so-called trans people. It's always from these trans activists assaulting people like myself, or Alex Stein the other day, who got assaulted about 5 times in 1 minute, hot coffee thrown in his face. Posey Parker, Kelly J. Keane, her real name, down in New Zealand, mobbed by 2,000, tomato soup dumped on her head. Reporters at this detransition day in Sacramento, when one of the reporters for Turning Point USA was there, and someone ran up with a bat and smashed his reporter's camera and then stabbed him in the face with something, cutting his face open. There's been a ton of violent events just in the last month or two. So this isn't an isolated incident. It's happening all over.
Not even that. Most violence that happens against trans people are from people within the LGBT community or people that are engaging in some type of sexual event, I guess, or encounter with that person, and then things go awry. It's not like there's anyone, especially right-wing people, out there targeting transgender people or hurting them. All we're trying to do is get them to stop dancing half naked in front of children. I mean,
Right.
that's basically it.
Right, but they want that, and they will fight for that for sure. But like I think, you know, it's similar to the Stop Asian Hate situation. Like, it's not what it is when it comes to any violence against transgender people. Obviously, that's unacceptable. But it's similar to that in the way that they want it to be right-wingers doing it. They're selling it that way, right? And they also sell it like, okay, there might be how many deaths within a year. The community is relatively small compared to other forms of the population or other, you know, genders or like male, female, or white, black, or whatever it may be. It's much smaller than those. So you have a handful of deaths, and now homicides are up 3,000%. You know, so I think
and when it comes,
go.
When it comes to Asian hate, the most Asian hate that we're seeing is coming from the left, and it's coming from universities in the form of affirmative action, where they can't even get into universities despite having perfect SAT scores because of racial quotas. So I don't know any hate going towards Asians from any conservatives ever.
Yeah.
Never.
The only hate that there is out there is coming from the left.
No, but the boogeyman matters, and they tried to get away with that with this Stop Asian Hate movement. They're trying to get away with it now, trying to sell it as this genocide that's literally not happening. But Chris, you were touching on this. You know, it's like you have a bunch of young individuals lost, trying to find themselves, not mentally well, and they're being told, right? They're being told that people like them are experiencing a genocide in the United States. And I think that's why, certainly, I would say, why we're seeing such an uptick in the rhetoric shifting. I'm sure you've noticed when you see the signs of the protests, Lisa, I'm sure you've seen as well, or any of our friends go out there and report on this stuff. Not only are there violent upticks, which it's funny, Chris, you mentioned that. I actually have that right here from that article. A couple examples of that, but that just recently. But also the rhetoric. It's like, you know, what is it? Death before detransition. It's there's that Trans Day of Vengeance. Yeah. I'm not sure if I pull this up. I'm not sure if like the stream will get taken down, but probably not, because they're being really touchy with that on Twitter. But there's that April 1st Trans Day of Vengeance. Stop trans genocide. And what we're seeing is these radical transgender groups merging, and they largely have been kind of the same people, merging with a lot of these Antifa groups as well. In my personal experience just alone, I would say probably most people that report on Antifa would probably agree, like around 50% of them are transvestites or somewhere around that kind of like way of calling themselves or whatever you call that. But now they're really teaming up, and you'll see that at these protests, and that's why these protests are getting a lot more violent. The rhetoric's getting more intense. They're threatening people with violence if they don't get their way. Chris, within your own conversation, actually really quick before I jump into you, because I was going to ask you if you're seeing more extreme rhetoric in your conversations, but we do have a super chat from Bungle Bush again. Thank you so much for that. Is that the second? Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for leaving that $5 super chat. My main point, coming back for more. Let's see. My main point is that we all strike while the iron is hot, but see, it gets me in trouble. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I think that the right definitely does it, or I know, the right definitely does it a lot less, because I don't know, maybe they just have more moral fiber or something like that. I don't know what it is. But they definitely do it less, but they definitely do it. What do you guys think? Do you guys think the right's as bad, or when it comes to comparing it to the left? Not even close, right?
First of all, we just saw Michael Knowles up at Princeton, I believe it was, right? Or somebody was Purdue, maybe. I think it was Purdue. And there was an actual sign by Antifa up there telling people, if you weren't on board with Transformers, that you should unalive yourself. I'm trying to behave for YouTube here, but it actually said that. Like it is actually calling for that. I have never in my life at any Trump rally, protest, even the BLM ones from like back before, I've never seen them like actually actively telling people to hurt themselves. Like, isn't that what they say that they're dealing with? Like, they're the ones that are more susceptible to the unaliving, right? And now they're telling conservatives to do that. I've definitely seen an uptick as far as their rhetoric compared to the conservatives. And God forbid, we're just saying that we don't want the trans people to not exist. Like that's the words they use. We know that transgender people exist. We just want you to get the correct medical attention, the correct mental health access, and all those things that you need, rather than having people who are suffering from the same exact condition that you have treat you, affirm your care, and then give you procedures that don't help you at all. In fact, they make your life more difficult and they make your mental condition less stable.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. They treat it as an offensive push. It's not an offensive push at all. Why the hell are these books in schools? Why the hell are you trying to chemically castrate children? Why are you trying to dance in front of children sexually? Okay, all of these questions need to be asked. The right in this country, the people that are anti whatever the hell is going on here, this radical gender movement, is on the defense, pushing back against the insanity. But they treat it as an offensive push, right? You're doing this because you're bigots. No, we're doing this because we're not crazy and we're trying to protect people. Which, I think given to a reasonable person and giving a few moments to explain that is just common sense, like a common sense conclusion. I pulled this up. I wanted to read this tweet that Matt Walsh tweeted a little bit earlier. If I understand this correctly, if a shooter has right-wing views, then the right's rhetoric is responsible. If the shooter has left-wing views, then the right's policies are responsible. Very convenient. They've set themselves up in this really amazing spot where they just can't lose at all.
They can never lose. Look, there is such a thing as right and wrong in the world. And on this issue, there's no room for compromise. There's simply a right and a wrong. And what's going on with these kids is wrong. Yeah. And most Democratic voters know this because I have conducted the biggest survey in the world myself. Not just a survey. I've had 10, 11, 12,000 conversations with people all across North America over 2.5 years. That's on the street, never mind other conversations I've had. And it's more than 90% of the population who agrees with us. And it is people from all political stripes and all walks of life. I was at the university, the Florida State University today. There was only one person out of university students who had an issue with my signs. I was there with Chloe Cole, who is a detransitioner. She had her breast cut off when she was 15. She started transitioning at the age of 12 with puberty blockers and hormones. And the only person who disagreed with us was another trans person who came out to counter protest.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I don't know anything about her. Where were her parents for that? Were they supportive? Were they made afraid that their daughter would, hurt themselves? So I don't know whatever. But like, I really feel like this narrative doesn't just hurt the left. It hurts the parents of these kids. The fact that, there's a genocide going on, or we don't want you to be safe, or we don't want people to, whatever. I think that as a parent, especially these parents this day and age who aren't really on top of things like they used to be. But the scariest thing anybody can say to you is that something's going to happen to your child and it's going to be tragic and it's going to be the end. And most people will get into like a frantic type of situation, like feeling within themselves and say, okay, I'll do whatever I can so that my kid doesn't hurt themselves and my kid remains here on this planet.
Lisa,
I think that it's going twofold.
And really quick, a lot of people too, they're not that political, right? We have a lot of like Orange County, let's say, or Southern California, LA area, you're going to have majority Hispanic families. These parents have no clue what to do in this situation. So they hear somebody says like, oh, it's either death or whatever. They'll pretty much just buy into that because they really don't know anything that's going on. So it's a lot of people that just like aren't even that political. They just hear something like that, get spooked, and are like, holy crap.
That's right. And I can answer that question. I've heard Chloe just speak about this a few times just the last couple of days. She loves her parents. She supports her parents. Her parents support her. They were manipulated to believe that their daughter would be in danger if they didn't help her transition.
Wow.
And Chloe was lied to the whole time. She had autism. She had ADHD. She had body image issues from having hit puberty really early. I understand this is tough for a lot of girls. She hit puberty at about the age of 8 or 9. So there were other issues, as there always are with every single one of these children. but they don't treat any underlying comorbidities anymore. And in fact, if you even suggest therapy for any of these struggling children, they take it as an insult. It's an offense because you're invalidating the person's gender identity. And just suggesting they need therapy, they consider it to be offensive because, hey, what do you mean? Why would I need therapy? I'm a boy. You're a transphobe for even suggesting it. That's the opinion today.
To me, and I always use this analogy because it has always resonated so well with me. It's like the trans community to me feels very much like the anorexic community. You're looking in the mirror and you're feeling a different way than what actually is. And so there's some disconnect between your body and what your brain thinks. And so we would never say, you know what? You're right, you are fat, to an anorexic person and hand them tons of diet pills that we know will kill them. What is the difference here? It is exactly the same mechanism that's going on there. What is the difference? And I really believe that it's these mentally ill providers are the ones that are providing the care, and they don't want to heal themselves. And so they just push this on a whole new generation so that they can feel accepted within their own body, skin, whatever you want to say.
Right. Don't change the people around you. Don't try to go after them because they have that ability to push back, think critically. You can go after the children that are impressionable, that will accept you no matter what. Push for that. They'll be accepting of you because they don't know any better. And it's not only accepting, they'll change what reality is for you. Right? This isn't tolerance. This is I would argue more worshiping, but it's shifting what reality is to fit your worldview, right? And children are obviously the perfect target for that. You can't do that for you and me. So your neighbor says that, you're like, okay, that's cool. Like, you do your thing, whatever, but that's not enough. You guys,
it's always the children that evil revolutionaries go after. It's what Mao did. It's what Lenin did. It's what Hitler did. It's always the kids because, of course, they're the ones that you can manipulate most easily.
Right.
And what's going on today, we had this perfect storm where no one dared to speak out about this because they combined these letters, these 4 magical letters, LGBT. Oh, you're attacking the LGBT community. Whoa. That shuts up 99.999% of the population right away.
100%.
Because no one wants to be seen as a bigot. So there was the fight for gay rights, which most everyone is fine with. That's LGB. That's something totally different. That's attraction. That's really got almost nothing to do with the T and the Q and the plus. But they conflated these two terms in media, in politics, in legislation as well. And it just shut everyone up. Yeah. And here we are waking up in 2023, and most people are still learning for the very first time that there are tens of thousands of children undergoing childhood sex changes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something like, children. I'm not even sure if it's Gen Z, but young children are making up about, making up about 20% of the the trans population, the transvestite population. And they're way overrepresented. And then you have the older generations, which make up like a super small percentage.
Yeah, there have been 300,000 children, according to a New York Times article last year. 300,000 kids have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Those are just the official diagnoses, usually for insurance purposes. So they keep this in the DSM-5 as a mental health disorder, gender dysphoria. But they don't really treat it as a mental health condition anymore. If you write on Twitter that gender dysphoria is a mental illness, you'll get your account suspended. But they leave it in the DSM because that way they can bill insurance companies for the diagnosis. That's the only reason it's there.
How convenient. How convenient. You guys, we're going to move on to the shooting, unfortunately, but I did want to talk about it. What's going on, everyone in the chat? Make sure you guys are hitting, smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the stream. Hope everyone's doing well. Any familiar faces? DC Long, I think maybe we've seen him. Anyone else?
Bigot Chicken's in there.
I'm trying to remember people, you guys. Be patient with me. Bigot Chicken, what's going on, Bigot Chicken? What a great name.
I love him.
GM, hey James, how you doing? Doing very well. What's going on, everyone? Smash that like button. Okay, so about this shooting, obviously horrifying. I did want to highlight this part because I think this is an important part to talk about. A lot of people say, I mean, first of all, what the heck when it comes to no security at the school. Holy crap.
The front door was open. The front door was unlocked. I mean, I
thought she shut out the front door.
No, I was told she walked in. Don't they have security footage of her walking in? Did they?
She was like, it was glass.
Yeah. I mean, we have glass front doors at ours, but they're always locked. I don't know. There's only one entrance in my kid's school, and there's always somebody there. And I don't know.
Let me read this super quick, and then we'll chat about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Police said the shooting. This is an article from our beloved CNN. Police said the shooting was targeted, closely planned, and outlined in documents from the shooter. Hale left writings pertaining to the shooting and had scouted a second possible attack location in Nashville. Quote, but because of a threat assessment by the suspect, there's too much security. Decided not to. Drake said on Monday. The shooter left behind a, quote, drawn out maps of the school detailing how, quote, how this was all going to take place. So they were looking at other schools. They were looking at other places to carry out this attack. And she ended up coming to the conclusion of, okay, well, this place has a low threat assessment, so I can get away with killing as many people as possible where I won't be killed. Now, of course, the police department did a fantastic job. I think everyone's seen that. A lot of people have seen that video. We're definitely not going to play that on the stream, but they did an amazing job. They set the DC Drano said they set the standard for the country. I totally agree. They did a phenomenal job, quick response. However, what the hell? Why no security? Why no police officer on campus? Why no security guard at the freaking very least, armed security guard on campus, ready to protect children? Somebody that is capable. Not looking for somebody pathetic like Uvalde, like actually having capable, competent people that are going to protect children. Why is this even still a thing? Why are there still schools that don't have security? It's unbelievable to me. How much have we sent over to Ukraine? What, $130 billion?
And nothing to protect our kids. My mom made a great point today. You don't even have to spend that much money. My grandfather, my kid's grandfather, my father, who is a veteran, would sit up at that school armed, who has his concealed carry, every day for free from 7 to 3:30 or whatever time they need. He would do it for free just to make sure that his grandkids are safe. You can't tell me that there aren't programs or there aren't things that we could do to get veterans and people who care about these young kids in there for a nominal cost. Like, and that's the other thing. You're going to spend all this money on Ukraine and other things, but they won't do it. Here's the funny thing, Democrats are always saying that they want to protect the kids and blah, 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 blah. But they just had the House, the Senate, the White House, and they didn't pass any gun reform legislation. They didn't do anything to fund and protect and fortify these schools. They don't actually care. They like when these things happen, I believe, because it allows them to push their narrative and then try to keep doing this gun grab stuff.
Dude, it's literally another boogeyman. That's all it is. They need the boogeyman to go after. As soon as they get rid of that AR-15, guess what's next? The shotguns, any other semi-auto pistols or whatever it may be. The biggest school shooting in United States history was with 2 pistols at Virginia Tech. So I like getting anybody focused on just the AR-15 as being the primary target of what needs to be done to stop mass shootings. Sorry, getting rid of an AR-15 doesn't get rid of a homicidal maniac in the country. Right.
They also have these school shooter dogs. I don't know if you guys have known about this, but Representative Randy Weber was looking into sponsoring a bill, I believe, a couple Congresses ago, because he had a school shooting in Santa Fe in his district. And the minute they smell gunpowder, and they are trained to go and attack the shooter. So you could have these school shooter dogs in every school. It's not armed people. The kids don't see anything. The dogs are friendly with the kids. It only goes when it smells anything that has to do with a gun. I've seen the demo videos and they're dogs. You can put them in every single school and it will attack the shooter only. And we can't get them to sign on the bill. It's insane to us.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chris, what were you going to say?
The House just passed a bill called the Parents' Bill of Rights, and not one Democrat voted for it.
Yep.
And in this bill are things like parents should know what the curriculum is. Parents will get 2 meetings minimum guaranteed with the teacher per year. We should know what the school's budget is. All basic common sense things that everyone, including the Democrats, could have agreed on just 5 years ago. But now not one Democrat will vote for this Parents' Bill of Rights. Democrats hate parents, and they hate our kids too. And these are fixes that we're talking about here for these school shootings. But we have to get back to the root cause. In this instance, how about we just teach our children that they're beautiful as they are, and there's no such thing as a transgender child. And if they don't conform to stereotypes, that's totally fine. Then this person would never have had it in their head in the first place that they were trans and that they needed to shoot up the Christo-fascists at this school. And like Tucker Carlson talks about all the time, why don't we address this mental health crisis in the country? How 30% of Americans are on some sort of psychotropic drug. There are huge underlying issues behind all of this, but nobody wants to address any of them.
Yeah, I think I think GOP's been largely very pathetic in this front as well. But I think when it comes to a lot of these leftist leaders, I think they kind of want you weak and pathetic. I think they want you reliant. When it comes to the agenda of every aspect that they're pushing for, more control over your language used online, more control over your guns, your ability to, your right to self-preservation, more control over every aspect of your life. How is being weak and pathetic and reliant not beneficial for them, for those agendas? Really quick, super chat, CLH, you rock, says, thanks for truth on trans community. She shot through the door, by the way. So yeah, I saw, I was looking at that video. She was shooting through the front door. There was 2, I believe, glass doors shooting through. So alarms went off, everything like that. But no armed police officer around. No, we're taking care of other countries before our own children. I mean, you go to you go to any shopping district.
Walk into classrooms? Was she able to walk into classrooms?
I believe at that point, a lot of them. I would say a lot of them. I haven't seen any footage of like a bunch of doors on lockdown necessarily when it comes to like classroom doors and whatnot. But it seemed as though she was able to kind of just like aimlessly roam around the school. Yeah. But, I can't even, like, first of all, if you're a parent and you're watching this and you have a kid, make sure, and I would imagine probably you have, but make sure that that child, the school that your child is going to, has an armed officer on campus. LAUSD, the Los Angeles School District, they've been warring, as well as other school districts, they've been at war against having an armed police officer on campuses because they say it disproportionately affects, their minority students. These students do something crazy and they get arrested. But they've been at war trying to get rid of them from these campuses. Like, at this point, I just think that these people, people that are pushing against that, I don't know why this school didn't have it. That was a bad move. Maybe they do, and it just wasn't the person wasn't there at the time. But people that are fighting against it and actually opposing having a police officer that's armed on campus, I just, at that point, I just feel like they just want it to get worse. They will do, the only thing that they'll settle for is getting rid of AR-15s at this moment. That's the only thing they're willing to fixate on, and literally nothing else, even though getting rid of AR-15s would in no way prevent school shootings. Anyways, awful stuff. We have right here just a couple headlines from the mainstream media. And I don't know if you guys saw some of these headlines, but I just thought that a lot of them, I think to the average person, to just your average Joe reading them, they're like, okay, they don't really see it. But a lot of them, obviously, were running to the defense of, transgender people or whatever it may be, or ignoring that the shooter was trans that went after the Christian school, whatever it may be. But we have right here NBC News, fear pervades Tennessee's trans community amid focus on Nashville shooter's gender identity. We were already fearing for our lives. Now it's even worse. But
they can't point to any violence that's been done to them.
Yeah.
There's been no violence perpetrated against them, but now they're even more fearful. These headlines are so irresponsible.
That's kind of what I was getting at, is this is the only direction I see it going in, is giving more fuel to that fire, that there is some fake genocide against them, that everyone is after them. And I don't know, like, if this is just, like, I mean, it blows my mind that everyone buys it, because I feel like if there was this mass violence against these people, they are so loved by the media and so not just loved, praised by the media, you would be hearing about it every single day. You would be hearing about it all day, every day, but you just don't. Mm-hmm. Now, not to say it doesn't exist. Of course, violence against anybody exists, but to the level that they want it to, that these people have to fear for their lives, you know, they're helping to stoke that flame, and that's a lot of what the headlines are focused on.
There's always a supply and demand issue with anything that they're saying when it comes to this stuff, race stuff. And so what they're going to do is they're going to take these events and say, it was the right that pushed this person, and the right is now responsible for the deaths of these children. And it's the right, like, because they control all the media, it's everything is always going to be our fault and never the people that actually, you know, do the crimes or are actually violent. They're never going to be held responsible for anything. Yeah. I mean, they were too busy. I think it was the New York Times was too afraid to, like, dead name or not use the right pronouns. They had to put out a tweet about it. Like, we are that sensitive. This person just shot little kids, and we can't even say that this person was born a female. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The media runs and owns everything. It's awful.
Yeah, I think, Lisa, it was like countless outlets that were doing it. I think CNN did that. I think Reuters had something similar. I don't know if I have that up, but Reuters did something similar. So many people
that I know, they were just so confused. They're like, okay, so was it a male or like a born male or a born female? And I feel like everybody was asking questions even up until midnight last night. They were like, no, it's a female that was transitioning to a male and was pumped full of testosterone.
Also, having to go back and, like, apologizing for any of that stuff. It's like, this person was literally a demon. They were evil. They were sick. They wanted to hurt as many people as possible. And I think we can assume a motive, but we still don't have that information just yet. But this person was evil, and they're dancing around trying to make sure that they're being respectful to that person.
So this is the thing is that these people are, like, the most narcissistic people ever. Like, it's not just affirm me, it's celebrate me, celebrate my lifestyle, right? And the same thing happens with school shooters in general. They want all the attention. They want tons and tons of attention. And the girl was texting her friend on, I think it was Instagram or something, like, right before she did it. And she's like, I swear I'm not doing this for attention. And then 2 sentences later, it was like, I'm going to tell all the news, like, I'll be all over the news. I'll be all over the news. You clearly wanted attention. Like, we are breeding this narcissism that's dangerous. Are you listening, James? We can hear you talk.
I was clicking the mute button because I was trying to figure something out. You were good. The audience couldn't hear.
You weren't muted. We could hear you.
We could hear you. Okay.
No, the audience couldn't hear. I wasn't saying anything bad. Okay. I was just trying not to interrupt you, Lise. And
yeah.
I was, like, getting distracted. Like, what's he saying? Is he talking?
I was trying to figure something out.
Lisa makes a great point, and I've mentioned this a lot in terms of suicidality. Girls, statistically, have suicidal ideation much more than boys, but boys follow through, and boys actually do commit suicide more than girls. Why? Well, we have testosterone. It makes us do all sorts of dumb things. Now, you take these girls who are depressed and anxious and suffering from whatever mental health problems, and you pump them full of testosterone, more than I have running through my system. You're going to get bad outcomes. So this whole experiment just has to end. And I know this woman was on testosterone.
Yes.
I run into these women on testosterone all the time, and they are crazy. They're so angry. And
Yeah.
when you read some of the stories of detransitioners, they'll tell you that they just had so much rage. They couldn't control it. We're used to this. We're men and we're supposed to have this in our bodies, but we still get rage at times when bad things happen. For them, it's something brand new. Their empathy goes away and this connection to their emotions disappears and they just get angry.
I mean, aren't we
So
largely
Also a societal
experimenting with
problem.
these children too? Aren't we largely experimenting with these people that are going on these hormones, that are taking, testosterone, all of these things when it comes to like women actually doing it? Aren't we experimenting with that? So it's like you already have somebody that's, like you said, a sensitive individual, and now you're pumping them full of hormones, and you think that's a great idea?
But this is a
Right.
societal problem too with women in general. If you guys ever notice, like more and more women are becoming the violent, mouthy, aggressive ones. If you look at like half of the assaults that were done on MAGA people for wearing like MAGA hats and things like that, it was always women that were assaulting them. It's always like the Karens in the store that are yelling and barking at people. Women, I swear, women over time have become increasingly more aggressive in general. Then you put on top of that them pumping them full of testosterone. And women today feel like they're entitled to like hit men, and then they get shocked when they like get hit back and things like that. But there's a growing issue with women being more violent towards men, violent in general anyway, than we've seen before. You add pumping them full of testosterone to the equation, and you're in for a recipe for disaster for sure.
It's funny that you say that. I think a lot of guys guys still misbehave, right? But a lot of guys, you are aware of the consequences when mouthing off to another male, or let alone letting like putting your hands on them, right? And I think a lot of women do know that guys will not touch them, and rightfully so. I don't believe that they should,
Right.
obviously, because you can easily overpower them. Like, you don't need to show them that example for it to be true. But yeah, I think a lot of guys also have that, in the back of your head, that there is a consequence here. I'm not going to go ahead and be a jerk to this dude because this could escalate into a fight. And I think a lot of those women at those protests, I've seen it too, for sure. I've seen it too. A lot of the women at the protests, they will be super aggressive with you. What are you going to, like, they'll even taunt you. What are you going to do? Hit me? It's like, you're right, I'm not, but you suck.
Yeah.
We have a super chat here
Look at all
from
the people that were attacking Alex Stein the other day, right? It was mostly women, right? There's a problem. Women need to be put back in their place in this society. I'm sorry. I know this is a little like a lot.
It's that like drive to be like competing with men, and now they're doing it physically. It's like,
and they're not home. They're not home in the house. They're not nurturing their kids. These kids are feeling lost, and they're turning to the internet, TikTok, because there's no parents home. There's no nurturing mother at home. And all of a sudden we have like these spikes and these epidemics because we have an insane group of people that are pushing this stuff on our children, and the children are buying it because there's no mothers at home to say, no, you can't do this. And the mothers have left the fathers. And so there's no father to put strong men anyway, to put their foot down and be like, enough to the woman and to the man. If you ever watch these videos too, with these trans people, the dad's just sitting there like a bump on the log and the mom's yapping the story, right? That it's always the way. I feel like the women in general are responsible for this entire problem. Sorry.
Women, I get at least 9 out of 10 of the abusive comments I get are from young liberal women.
Yep.
They're the ones pushing transgender ideology in the real world. I know there are billionaire men who have funded things, but the foot soldiers for this movement, the counselors, the teachers, the therapists who affirm only, these are almost all women.
yeah.
With
It's that
hair.
response, not like practically seeing the consequences of something, but emotionally, right? All you literally have to say to these people is that it's inclusive, and they're like, okay, And Chris, I have the same experience when it comes to, we've done, we did a video recently. Which one was it, Nico? We were talking about, should elementary school teachers be teaching children about radical gender theory, right? Little children. And just about I was in a liberal area, granted, but just about every woman I ran into was saying, yeah. They made up the overwhelming majority of people that totally supported it. Now, not to say that guys don't support that as well, but largely when it comes to women, they are the ones that are going to be that ground, that person on the ground doing the work to get that stuff passed. You guys, we have a couple super chats here. One from ASMR Stoned. As a Christian who only wants peace, what can we do? a radical ideological group believes we are attacking them and they are becoming violent. I am scared. Well, first of all, thank you for the super chat. Second of all, I would say...
Stop being scared.
What was that?
I was saying, stop being scared. There is such a thing as righteous anger in the Bible. And, I understand wanting peace and all, but when we're having situations where they're literally harming our children, and I'm not calling for violence or anything, but you need to step up and start really not being scared and taking action and have faith and actually do something. That's the problem. We have everybody who's scared, and we've been told as Christians that Christians are peaceful and to turn the other cheek. And where has that gotten us? That's gotten us into this world of degeneracy. So stop being scared. Number one, I think that was a man, right? Was that a man?
I don't know. I mean, it could just be a random photo. I have no clue.
All right. My point is just everybody needs to stop being scared. The more people that we have that talk about it, that are honest about it, that stick together, A, the safer we are, but B, the better chance we have for things not to get violent.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. There is such a thing as righteous anger, and you can be angry about this. You can be really mad about this.
You should be mad about this. But I think also, a lot of people look at this stuff like, what can I do about this? And answering that question, there's a lot of things you can do, both putting your face out there and getting your message out there, and also behind the scenes. There are countless people, some of the most effective people in the industry. You don't even know that they exist, right? So you can go whatever route you want to do. I realized in 2018 that I wanted to start making YouTube videos. I thought this was important. I saw the direction that the country was headed in. It was not as bad as it is now, but I saw the direction that it was headed in, and I wanted to get involved. So I was like, okay, well, hey, this is dumb. I should put my face out on the internet. That's what I chose to do. But you don't need to be that person if you're not in a position to do that. You guys see what I'm saying? If you're not in a position to put your face out there, you don't really need to be. You can get involved in countless other ways. Getting people elected to your school board is incredibly effective. Getting together with your community, getting people to vote. There's all sorts of ways to get involved and actually make a difference. And when it comes to school boards, I mean, that is somewhere that conservatives and anyone on the right is winning in this country. Maybe not in California, some districts, yes, but the argument of being pro-children, pro-parent is a winning argument. We're seeing that routinely throughout the country. Chris, I know you're familiar with that as well. I wanted to get to another super chat from Bigot Chicken. I don't know why the name is so good. Bigot Chicken, what's going on? Glad you're here. Guy or girl? Probably guy. Chicken, what's going on? Thanks for being in the stream watching. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Glad we can all have two sexy hosts and Lisa bring us the news. That's true. So I think Chris,
he's my favorite. Bigot Chicken and I go way back. And
was that a jab at Lisa or?
Oh yeah, definitely. But we do that in jest. I DM Bigot Chicken all the time. We tease each other. We love it. So good job, Bigot.
So good, Bigot. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, you guys, take a few seconds to smash that like button. If you, it does work with the algorithm. It puts the live stream in front of other people. Let's get this live stream in front of other people. One, it might be funny because you might get a bunch of trolls in the comments. Two, we could reach more people and change more minds. That's obviously incredibly important. So smash that like button, hammer it. Bah, 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 bah. All right. So what were we just talking about? I just got lost.
Well, that person had said, "What do we do?" And people ask me this all
what do we
the time.
do? Yeah, Chris, take it away.
A lot of people are very upset about this, and they have been for quite some time as they've been learning more, but they have no idea what to do. So for moms out there, I'm going to tell you to go join Moms for Liberty. One of my best friends in this fight is the co-founder, Tiffany Justice. Her and Tina Deskovich were both school board members.
Do they have a Twitter?
Ran for 4 years. Yeah, Moms for Liberty, MOMS4, the number 4, Liberty, which apparently is a dog whistle for fascism today, according to the left. You can't say freedom. That's fascism now.
There was a funny meme, and this is, I guess for my channel, technically somewhat inappropriate, but I'm going to say it anyways. There was a funny meme video of this guy going and asking people if they were part of MILFs for Liberty, which I thought was, and they were like, yeah, and they misheard him.
It's like, they get a lot of hate because they're very effective. And in just
awesome.
How long has it been now? It's been like 2 years. They have 115,000 moms, chapters all across the country.
Wow.
So that's one way you can.
Ladies.
That's one way you can connect with other moms, because for a lot of the ladies, especially, they they want to connect with other moms who are fighting in this. There are dads in it too. There are aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. It's mostly moms, but they're going to help you. They're going to help you figure out how you can be effective in your own community, because we can only get so much done at a federal level or a state level. Most of the good that's going to be done in this country and in my country and all across the Western world is always done at a community level. So they're getting it done. Parents Defending Education, another great group. There are all sorts of groups out there, but everyone has different skill sets and different passions, and you have to do what you love. If you don't do what you love, you're not going to be effective at it because you're not going to do it. So figure out what your skills are and just start small and put yourself out there. And next thing you know, you're going to make new friends and opportunities are going to open up.
Phenomenal advice. And Chris, I did want to ask you super quick. I wanted to ask you, I think I saw you talking about this on Twitter the other day, but why are you often I know you're in Canada a lot. You're a Canadian, America's hat. And why are you often in the United States helping us out?
All my trips now are into the US since the border's open. Because I don't know if you know, but shutting the border was really effective in stopping the virus. So they had to keep it shut for a really long time. I'm being facetious, of course. Even in Canada, we had curfews. When I got my arm broken, there was a curfew at 8 p.m. that night. So all these people were out at 7 p.m., which is when I got attacked, because they were forcing everyone inside.
They broke
the virus spreads much more quickly. Yeah, I had my arm broken by Antifa. Back in 2020.
It's occupational hazard, isn't it?
Yeah, by a traffic cone, the base of the traffic cone. This guy swung a big traffic cone at my head 4 times, and I blocked it every time with my forearm, but one of those blows broke my arm. Anyway, what was I going to say? I'm in the States for a lot of reasons. There's more people down here. The United States is still a big leader in the world. So if they fix this here, the whole world takes notice, and the whole world is taking notice. I get more support down here. There are organizations fighting this down here. We literally have no organizations doing anything about this in Canada. There really aren't any organizations that can even do anything because they don't exist.
Yeah.
But when there's a problem in the United States, people just form an organization, they get a bunch of money, and they go fight it. So I've made a lot of amazing friends. The Heritage Foundation has been phenomenal. They're the biggest conservative think tank in the U.S., and I've met all the major players who are fighting this across the U.S. And I just get more support. There are moms like Moms for Liberty who are fighting this. There are lots of dads fighting this.
I would add to that as well. And I think one thing that is so effective about you being here and helping out when it comes to this, right? Fighting this fight, is also one thing is the media attention in the United States is global. Right? So everyone sees our media when it comes to stuff that's happening in the United States. It literally, they send the message across the world where, some wins can be awesome in Canada, but largely a lot of people don't hear about a lot of these things. And I think one thing that's interesting that you're doing is when there is a win, the world sees it. Or when there is a viral video, the world sees it. Not to say that there's not viral videos in other countries, but when it comes to the United States, we lead the charge when it comes to that.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to get into is the media.
Yeah.
There's tons of media covering this down here. There's none who will cover it in Canada. There's Rebel Media. They do a little bit. I was supposed to be on with Ezra today, but I was in the middle of a thunderstorm and my mic cut out. But no, I get a lot more media down here. And so my strategy is all these kids are equal to me. I just want to end this all across the world. I had a vision for what to do, and it's working. But if we do fix this here, and we fix this, it was always going to be the Republican states who fixed it first, and that's happening.
Right.
Then it'll bleed over into the purple states and the blue states eventually, and it will eventually bleed across the border into Canada. Because like you said, a lot of people up there watch Fox News. They watch Timcast. They watch you. So
yeah, we have a lot of
out there
Canadian viewers, like a lot. It's pretty interesting. I think it's definitely the second largest country for sure watching.
Yeah, so I'm just out here to try and start as many conversations as possible. That's my goal for every single day. And the most productive way for me to do that is to come down here.
I love it. And you guys, back to that super chat of asking what can we do? That's just another example. And it's an awesome example too. I know everyone really appreciates it. Did we dig into this one already? The hate has consequences. The tweet from Andy. No, we have a tweet here. I don't think we did. No. And this was regarding the shooting And this was released. This was a screenshot. The reason why it's a screenshot is because the Resistance Trans is a locked account. You can't get to this. But Andy No tweeted out this screenshot of this tweet from Trans Resistance Network. Have you guys seen this one?
I heard about this. I haven't seen the tweet.
Hate has
I've been
consequences.
so busy. I've been kind of off Twitter for like the last day and a half, which is weird for me, but
I did read it earlier, and his summary's fine, so I'll just read the summary because it's quicker. But quote, hate has consequences. Radical trans activist group, the Trans Resistance Network, has released a statement mourning the death of the Nashville Christian school mass shooter. The statement says there were two tragedies: the murder of the children and school staff, and also of Aubrey Aiden, quote unquote, Hale, who it warns should not be misgendered. And they make that known a few times. Ahead of the mass shooting, trans activists had urged vengeance against Tennessee and conservatives for banning the medical transitioning of children. Now, I'm not going to say that all these people were going to go out there and shoot up the place and it was just going to be this huge war. Probably they would have, if Antifa was there, which they were teaming up with Antifa groups, it probably would have gotten violent, right? But when it comes to this person, this is a person potentially radicalized by, like we were just discussing, an increasingly more radical agenda with more radical, rhetoric, because they believe that there's a genocide happening in this country. But this response from Trans Resistance Network was not uncommon. This worldview was definitely not uncommon. And this them talking about how it's very sad what happened to Aiden on Twitter. Many people were coming out saying crazy stuff like this, and I know you guys probably saw some of that. But it kind of falls along this tweet right here. It's the same mentality that we've been talking about. Will Chamberlain tweets, "This is basically the definition of a terrorist movement. Meet our political demands or else." It's a screenshot that says, "F this. Oppressed minorities strike back. And if you don't want to make it happen, stop oppressing them." Going back to the genocide, or the fake genocide that's not really happening. People with nothing left to lose will sometimes not KTS, but instead become martyrs. See all of history. I won't pretend like this wasn't caused by the recent legislation in Tennessee. And this is a big trend when it comes to, where'd that go, of, crap. I was hoping to go to the right one. This is a big trend of what we're seeing the media reporting on when it comes to them. There was all these reports right when it happened of saying there was anti-quote transgender legislation pass. Now we see this, and it's the same rhetoric. It's the same thing as meet our political demands or else. This is why it's happening, right? You guys are going against the trans community, and if you don't stop that, people will die. That's the argument that we've seen people talking to us about in person, and that's the same argument the media is echoing today.
You've seen that picture of the T-shirt that says "trans rights or else" with all the guns.
Yeah, I was trying to find that. I had that up. So where is that?
It was on the Libby Evans one. Libby's.
Yeah, that was actually sent to me by my friend in Oklahoma. She sent it to me during the day, and I hadn't tweeted it out yet because I was super busy. She sent that to me before the shooting happened, but she was out filming or just getting pictures of some of these trans activists in Oklahoma. And that was one of the persons. And then just hours later, well, that shirt came true. So, I would expect the FBI would be looking into all of these people, right?
That'll never, ever happen. I've never seen anybody on the right with anything like that. I can't even fat shame on Twitter without being kicked off for 7 days, right? And they'll say things like trans rights or else and get to stay up. They'll actually call for them to, we have to qualify everything. I'm not telling anybody to do physical harm, but they're out there saying, yeah, do it, and they're allowed to stay. It baffles my mind.
Right, and they're held to two different obviously, for a long time now, these two groups have been held to different standards, right? This inflammatory rhetoric in the summer of 2020, there were Antifa groups and violent BLM groups that were organizing on social media platforms. But as soon as you have some other group doing anything, whatever it may be, that's conservative leaning, it's shut down automatically. But not just shut down, it's talked about on the mainstream media because they want to score points for saying how radical the right wing is. Now, I will say, I do want to make sure I make something clear, because I want to make sure I'm consistent across the board when it comes to mass shooters, and I think it's fair to be consistent across the board. The people that are actually held liable for this mass shooting, right? There's a difference between inflammatory rhetoric and the people that are actually responsible. The person that's actually responsible is obviously the mass shooter. But we can talk about two different things at the same time. We can talk about inflammatory rhetoric that's not helping and is going to most likely heat up the situation and drive more people over the edge, right?
Right.
When it comes to trans rights or else, they have been increasing this rhetoric over the last 6 months. We've been seeing it. We've talked about it already. And you'll see this at just about every single trans protest. These people, It is life or death, and that is the propaganda that they are selling. And that's going to have a dangerous effect. That will have a dangerous effect. They are fighting a ghost, and it's going to get people killed.
The other image we see is a popular T-shirt that says, "Protect," with a big knife, a dagger, "Protect trans kids." I've seen that going all the way back to October 2020. There's a video I took of these two trans activists who came up to me on the street. I didn't even say a word to them, but they just shouted at me for a couple minutes, and she was wearing that shirt. But guess who else is wearing that shirt? "Protect," with a big dagger, trans, and then there's a rose, kids. The Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota is wearing that shirt. And the Minister of State responsible for childcare in my home province of British Columbia also likes to wear that shirt. She happens to be a former professor of gender studies at the University of Victoria. So we have crazy activists who are now running our government.
Yeah, Chris, I'll pull up that.
This is why we have all this rhetoric.
Right, because I did see that, and that's part of the conversation of talking about how these government officials are purposefully trying to push this insane rhetoric with this community, because they buy into that same rhetoric. They buy into that same ideology. They buy into the lies, or at the very least, they see it politically beneficial to promote the lies.
Well, when you think about who gets into politics, not just anyone can become a candidate. In Canada, you have to be nominated. You have to get approval of the nomination committee. I can't even run for any party. But down here in the States, it's the same thing. Unless you have the approval of Planned Parenthood and the Human Rights Campaign and these other radical leftist organizations, you're never going to get the funding that you need to win any of these races.
Yeah.
So they just handpick the activists, the most extreme people, and that's who we end up in these parties. And they don't represent the common person on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Look at the whole Biden administration. Are there anybody that aren't fairies or whatever you want to say? I'm trying to be nice for you.
That's a fine word. That's a fine word for you too.
But is that a fine word? I don't know.
I think so.
Okay. Is there anybody who's not like it is like they're taking such a small minority of the population, propping them up because victim status is socially beneficial. It's lucrative to be a victim.
Yeah.
And so they're creating these little classes and they're creating these divisions, and they are really trying to destroy the nuclear family, destroy everything about what made our society great. And you would think the whole world is gay, trans, a victim. I'm so mad about it.
The nuclear family.
I feel like they get away with everything, and they have ruined everything. And it really started with the feminist movement and civil rights era legislation in general, just the way that things were codified, like, hate crimes and all those things. Like, if you do a crime, it's hateful no matter what it is, right? Like,
yeah.
Anyway, I think that they are destroying our society, and they're doing it on purpose. And these mentally ill, weak people are falling for it. And there's actually no one to stand up for it. They are the pawns. They are too sick or stupid to actually realize that they're being manipulated and played. And there's a wave of this.
Right. And they that totally goes over their head. And one of the most interesting parts to me is that they think that they are like raging against the machine. They think that they're raging against the establishment, the big man. It's like, dude, you are the machine. You're the foot soldiers. And that's what they
teenagers and young.
Sorry, Chris, go.
Yeah. Teenagers and young adults are supposed to be rebellious against the government. This generation pushes every single restrictive thing that the government has ever implemented. It's totally backwards.
Yeah,
But it's one big.
They're selling obedience as like some sort of, oh, we're raging against the machine, but it's like you are literally the most obedient people in the population.
Yeah, and they all have the same opinions about everything. They are literal NPCs. You know exactly what's going to come out of their mouth before they say it. I know you know this because you've interviewed thousands of people out on the street. And it's sad. So how do we fix this, James? That's the big question. I think we have to just keep having conversations and getting the truth out there, because the truth spreads for free and it will eventually spread. But we have a much bigger systemic issue. We have communism coming in through the back door with a shiny new bow on it. And this time they call it equity. And instead of equality of opportunity, it's equality of outcome. This is the same old thing. And where we have Marxism, which is the belief that parts of society are oppressed based on their financial status, this Marxism has been multiplied into race Marxism and queer Marxism, where you're now a victim based on your race or your gender or your sexuality or whatever. And we have these kids who are all being raised to believe that they need to have some special status, because to be white, cis, heterosexual means you're at the top of the oppression pyramid.
Yeah.
That's what we really have to fix.
I mean, in the United States, we're really trying to undo something that's been at work. And by the way, I don't have like just the 3 people template yet, so I have to just have whatever is coming up in the front, so whatever. But because Chris, I did want to go over just a moment in our last video with you. But we are going against something they've been working on for decades, and we're just kind of waking up to it. What, 2016, basically 2016, 2015, maybe at the earliest. I mean, the people that just want some form of normalcy, want to be left alone, want their constitutional rights, whatever it may be, want to protect children. We're trying to undo decades of work here. And when it comes to what needs to be done, there's multiple areas to tackle, because we literally own nothing. I've said this a couple times. The right in this country, conservatives, literally own like just about one industry. And it's that chicken sandwich industry from Monday to Saturday, and that's about it, right? Popeyes might have Sunday. So we literally own nothing, okay? We have so much time that we have to spend to unwind this stuff, and we almost don't have enough time. But that doesn't mean we don't try. People have to be going after. If you're going to be going to colleges, people are like, oh, don't go to college. It's like, okay, fine. If you're not going to go to college, you're not going to, learn about STEM or anything like that. Try to learn coding on your own and try to get involved in tech. Like these industries that we need to start taking over before a bunch of leftists are in charge, and the only people that know how to operate AI, let's say, or create the code for AI, whatever it may be. Like people need to be thinking about this stuff now. Now, if you want to go media route, or if you want to go your route, Chris, which is a fantastic route to go, that is making a difference. That is one extra person that is making a huge difference. And that's what everyone needs to be focused on. Like, I literally thought this in 2018. I was like, I never used to want to be full-time on YouTube or making videos. Never. That was not a thing. I wanted to be a businessman, whatever. I don't know. I don't really know what I wanted to be. But, and eventually this got to be more important to me. And, there are high-paying jobs. Professors get paid like crazy. They get paid crazy good.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a poor-paying job, and you can focus on being the best professor you possibly could to students. Like, there's a lot of high-paying jobs that make a major impact on the future generation. We have about 20 to 30 more years of our boomers voting Republican, meaning we basically have about 20 to 30 years to turn things around. And you can. You actually can. That's enough time, but people got to get to work.
DeSantis did it
in like
DeSantis has done.
What he did in like 4 years. Like yes, we can make a change.
And how did
we
he
can make
do
a
it?
difference.
How did he do it? He just told the truth. He acted like a normal person from the year 2010. That's all he did. And my message to all these
So
Republicans
true.
that I meet all the time is, look, stop being political. Just tell the truth. Act like a normal person. When you tell the truth about this issue in particular, you'll never lose a Republican voter. You're only going to pick up moderates, and you'll pick up a lot of leftists too. Because guess what? A lot of leftists are not okay with schools hiding things from them, and they're not okay with their children getting sterilized and losing their parental rights.
How
Because
crazy!
parents
what
love
a
nothing
concept.
more. than their kids. Yeah. Parents love their kids more than their political affiliation. So all these politicians got to get on board with being the parents' politician, like DeSantis is the parents' governor.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the right actually discovered something there when it comes to like that same policy would also work in states like California. You have a bunch of very culturally conservative Hispanics in the state of California. These policies and this fight works. And it's a winning argument. It's a winning policy that will get more people to go, move to the right, because they look at this stuff once they actually learn about it, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it's all the left is all about the little catchphrases, the 4-word little catchphrases that don't say anything, but they sound good and they just hope it spreads like wildfire. Gender affirming care.
Right.
What the hell does that mean? I don't know. It sounds good.
Right.
Like it
Trans
doesn't
rights
mean
are
anything.
human rights.
Trans rights are
Trans
human
rights
rights.
are human rights.
Okay.
Sounds
yeah.
light. Sounds lovely. Yeah, human rights. We're all for human rights.
Right.
The left know how to do this. Conservatives don't.
No, they
you
don't.
know what? We, the people, are going to get it done for them.
Right. Right. And actually, funny that you said that. The left is phenomenal at that. They are phenomenal at that. They do dominate a lot of the creative people. Like that's, who they are oftentimes. It just so happens to be. I don't know why exactly, but I mean that's why like Hollywood would be dominated by the left, for example, but they are very good at the little catchphrases. And one example of that would be the Parental Rights and Education Bill. What happened to that bill? Not the sexiest name. What happened to that bill? The left and the media took it. Democrats introduced the Don't Say Gay bill. That's what they called it. And that spread like wildfire. Most people didn't even know about it until they brought that up. It's the most catchiest thing ever. And it's a ridiculous title, but it worked. I was talking to people in California. It was a Florida bill. I was talking to people in California that knew exactly what the Don't Say Gay bill was. Well, they didn't know what was inside of it, of course, because they don't ask those questions. They knew the catchphrase, and that's it.
That's right. And 80% of people will only ever hear the catchphrase. They won't do anything else. And they'll just buy the propaganda that somehow Florida's against gay people.
Yeah.
The bill you might have as well have called it the Don't Say Straight bill, because that's as relevant as calling it the Don't Say Gay bill. It said don't teach sexual orientation and transgender ideology to kindergarten to grade 3.
Right.
That's what the bill said. Yeah, you think every parent knows this. They don't want any teacher talking about any sexual orientation at all to their 6-year-olds.
Dude, what a controversial take.
They do. But they do. Most parents don't. Rational, reasonable parents don't. But James interviews people all the time and they say, yeah, I think this content is fine. And I know so many parents, even mothers that I've talked to over the years that would say, not over the years, over the last couple of months, and they would say, look, I'll meet the school halfway. If you lock the books up and they have to get like a permission slip to get them out, and there's some order to it, we'd be happy with that. But these parents are being isolated. But a lot of these women, these crazy women, are okay. They're like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you need a way to, that's how society is. And you need to be able to introduce them so that people can be empathetic and whatever. We need to get rid of this idea that empathy is like the most wonderful thing on the planet. I don't know how we can do that. I think that men need to take the lead on that. But, empathy is not the above all be all. You have to be truth telling, and you have to, like, kindness doesn't mean telling you what you want to hear. Kindness means telling you what's going to be helpful for your life. We need to absolutely get rid of this overwhelming amount of empathy and come back to shame and humility and honesty. And we are just so far gone from that under this guise of women and empathy that I don't see a lot of hope, even if we do infiltrate, all these other systems, if we don't get that under control first. That's where I think that something needs to change. Our societal norms about empathy need to actually go out the window.
Right. And I think, Lisa, I think you're right. I just think that is a incredibly difficult.
I know. Listen, I'm black pilled. I'm like an acceleration. Let it hit the ground, and then we can start over. But I also think that gets influenced by who gets involved. Getting back to like doing your thing. I mean, even when it comes to like YouTubers, the overwhelming majority of YouTubers are left wingers. These people that children look up to on TikTok. Ignore all the
controversy around TikTok. These TikTok celebrities are overwhelmingly left-wing, right? But there are a handful of right-wing ones, or like, Nelk boys I would point to, right? These people do have a cultural impact. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that Nelk boys are the best example for people that are anti-degenerate, but these people can make an impact, and the older that they get and the more people that are conservative that get involved in social media, whatever it may be, can have an impact on the culture. And that would directly affect what happens with America's politics. But that's an incredibly difficult conversation. I think really the only thing people can do is get involved. That's literally all you can do at that point. We can't, the culture can't just shift overnight. Like, it's degenerate right now. I think
you have to make it happen, but we have to. But before you can just say fix it, we have to identify the root problem. People are like, okay, well, it's this, is that, and there's a lot of conflicting roots to this problem. We've got big pharma that's making forever patients, right? We've got this victimhood culture that has been perpetrated by Marxists, by feminism, by all these other things. We have a Democrat-controlled media, and our electoral system is set up so that interest groups and big pharma and all these other things are what is actually making the decisions. Even for people on the right wing, they're afraid to be canceled or be labeled a racist or a homophobe or a bigot. So they're afraid to vote a certain way. They're afraid to lose their moderate donors because they don't want to be seen like that. I mean, there's so many things that are competing at what is the root cause of this. And nobody seems to want to identify it. They're just saying this is wrong. I think that that's important, and I think that everybody needs a role. But if we're really going to dive down and fix these problems, it has to start we're just trimming the bushes. We're not ripping it out by the root, and that's what we need to do. And we need to figure out how to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, and I think you're totally right about kind of just not going after the root. I think the root of all of this, if I had to pick one thing, and I don't think it's just one thing, I think that's too simple. But if I had to pick one thing, I would largely say nuclear family structure. I would largely say that, because as soon as you have a mother and a father and a household, it actually largely takes care of a lot of these other issues that we're talking about today. Of course, not 100%, but in a generalized, generally speaking, it largely takes care of a lot of those issues that you're talking about. That would be the single one that I would talk about.
I'm for mandated morality. I mean, we already mandate a lot of morality, but let's go back to being a moral and virtuous society again, and promoting church and promoting things that are positive and dealing with your community. I think that there were all those studies that were just done. We saw where over time people said how important is serving your community to you, and the numbers have been plummeting for years. Right? Nobody cares about their community. All they care about is themselves and what their end of the day looks like. And, you see all these childless, miserable women lying to themselves all the time, right? They are fed a lie that, family is not the most fulfilling thing, and that being able to go on 60 trips to Rome is what's really going to fulfill you in life. And we've been consistently breaking down not just what it means to be a man, a woman, to have a nuclear family, but what you're supposed to contribute to society. Now it's just let's just feed these people with, narcissism and whatever they want to hear to make them feel good. And it is really, really destructive. And I think that people are too afraid to really talk about how bad it could potentially get. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Before we move on to this clip right here, because I just wanted to touch on this really quick. We actually spoke about this happening, but I just wanted to show everyone a live version of it. So we caught a live one here. Chat, what's going on, everyone? How are we all doing tonight? It's a little bit later if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, it's doing fine. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Do we have any people saying anything interesting? Let's see. No? Chuckling? Anything? Lisa, I feel like you're usually... Oh, we did get a super chat. I knew we did. That's why I did that. Subconsciously, I was like, super chat. CLH, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. You rock. All right, so CLH says, truth is always the kindest, most loving thing. Absolutely true. 100%.
So true. And people are not ready to receive the truth, but that's a them problem. I mean, we really need to we are, by lying to people, we are actually being mean to them and hurting them. We are not affirming them. We are not helping them. We're not making them more mentally stable. truth is what will always set you free, and we need to be telling it as much as possible. And that's what I like about what Chris does. I mean, he just calmly says it, and all he's doing is speaking the truth and pulling the truth out of these people and getting them to see where their arguments are faulty or where they've been lied to. And we need more people doing Billboard, Chris.
You rock, Chris.
I've done this a lot, and some of this was kind of natural, or I gained through years of experience because I'm old, but there are tactics to use with people. And when someone doesn't want to agree with you or they have false information, it's no point trying to convince them. You can't force information into someone's head. What you can do and what you have to do is get them to question their own beliefs. And the best way you can actually start a dialogue with these people is to say something they agree with. So like this guy that was shaking the other day right away, I just listened to him. I let him speak. And I said things that he agreed with right away, because that way he thinks I'm not the enemy.
Right.
So you can say things on the trans issue like, look, there's no right way to be a boy or a girl. This is my message. If a girl is more masculine, if she's a tomboy, if she wants to play in the dirt and climb trees and throw around a football and hates dresses, well, she's a beautiful girl. And they all know that. Every single person on the left will agree with you. They have nothing to say when you say we shouldn't put children in some stereotypical box. So now you've broken down a barrier right away.
And you've opened their ears,
and now they're ready
too.
for a dialogue.
Yeah, if you hit them with a jab right away, they're going straight horse blinders and ears covered.
Right, but now, okay, he's not the Nazi that I thought he was, and now you can start asking some questions to get them questioning their own beliefs, and that's the only way we can do this. So it might feel like you're doing nothing. But, you know, I've reached a lot of leftists and I've got a lot of them thinking and I've changed a lot of minds. But especially when I do this on a university campus, if I only talk to 10 people that day, that's fine. They're talking to their friends and I'm starting 1,000 conversations on campus because they all see me. And it becomes the number one topic on their internal Discord servers or Reddit or wherever they're talking. And I'm just one guy, but I can hit up all the Ivy League universities in a couple months, easy, and start conversations at all those universities. And we can go to all the other big universities. You only need a handful of people to start creating change on these university campuses. And they are target number one, because this is where the indoctrination is the worst. And these are the future leaders of our society. And we have to get proper conversations going on universities again, because they are gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, I know we spoke recently about that. We definitely will be going to a university together to do another video of volume 2 here in a bit. But you guys, I wanted to show this clip right here just to kind of show you an exact example of people repeating this. This is like the most common argument from these people that say, you know, children should transition and everything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and click play and we'll check it out.
If an adult decides to transition, they have some sexual function. I'm talking about when they give kids puberty blockers at Tanner stage 2. When they grow up into adulthood, they aren't able to.
These children have very high suicide rates who are not allowed to transition.
I hear this all the time.
So what she's saying is I'd rather have a live trans child than a dead whatever you're proposing. It's a life and death matter.
Yes, that is the coercive manipulation that is always used.
Do you have a trans child?
And it is true that suicidality is higher amongst this cohort. It's higher among kids with autism. It's even higher with kids with autism. It's higher among kids with anorexia. It's higher among kids with personality disorders.
What's your point?
But with these other conditions, we don't affirm a girl with anorexia and say, yes, sweetheart, you're overweight. Let's give you liposuction.
Anorexia is different.
Very calmly put. And also brought up the anorexia one. Lisa, that one I think is one of the most effective points to be bringing up. We don't just say, yes, sweetie, you're super fat, you know? But right there, Chris.
I would love to know how they think it's different. Like, how is it different? Please enlighten me on how it's different. I just don't see it. Like you.
It's not different.
Right.
But that was just another example right there of it's life or death. It is life or death, and that's it. By the way, she's actually holding up the sign higher and higher as that conversation goes on. I don't really know why, but she definitely felt more uncomfortable. This is later on in that conversation. It starts very calm, and Chris, I know you did a great job with this lady right here, but she was a tough one. She was definitely an example of a tough one.
She was too amped up.
Yeah.
Chris,
we were talking to her for the camera and stuff.
How many people this year have been like I think you were quoting the number earlier about how many people are identifying now as transgender or LGBTQ. Like the numbers have skyrocketed, right?
It's skyrocketed. I mean, we don't have firm numbers, but from talks on the street with a lot of moms and a lot of teenagers, especially teenage boys who come up to me, they'll tell me all the time, half the school identifies as LGBT, 10% of the school identifies as trans or non-binary. Pittsburgh did a survey of all the high schools. It was 10% trans and non-binary. And all the girls are identifying as bisexual or lesbian.
Right. So take that number, though. Take that number. And 10 years ago, why don't we have that number of dead children? Why don't we have it? The numbers don't correlate because no children have been killing themselves. Right. Like if you look, as a matter of fact, children's suicide rates have been skyrocketing instead of going down. Right. And so if all these people are now coming out and are free to do so, and before they were closeted, that should be the inverse. And that's not what we're seeing. So when people are sitting there saying that, like, you know, these kids are at risk for suicidality and self-harm and stuff, it's actually false. And we can show that, though, with data, because you can, I forget who did a study, and that's why I was asking you for the statistics, but there's a rise on who's identifying, and we can see a decrease in suicides.
The best stats you'll find for suicidality, I'd go to a site called statsforgender.org. Just enter suicide into the search bar. You'll find a bunch of good stuff.
Chris, are you still using your website for that?
I have a website, but it's pretty basic. That's not my website, the one I referred. I do have some stats on my website. If you go to the studies section, I have some stats on suicides there. We know that with adults, suicides peak 10 years after transition and are 19.1 times higher than their peers. We know from Laura Edwards-Leeper, who has been transitioning kids for 15 years at the Boston Gender Clinic. She left a year or two ago. She's not aware of any epidemic of suicides. She wrote this in an op-ed for the Washington Post last year. When the High Court in England banned puberty blockers in December of 2020 for about a year until an appeal was won, we didn't hear of one single suicide in all of England, where thousands upon thousands of kids were lined up to get puberty blockers. If these kids were killing themselves, the left would have told us. They have no data to support this. It's a total myth. Yes, suicidality is higher with children who are struggling with an identity crisis, obviously, and we need to help them. But actual suicides are still very rare.
Why did that number start, do you guys think? I mean, a lot of people hear 40%, 41%. Why did those figures come into play?
There's some terrible study full of self-selected participants that has been widely debunked. But that number of 41% that you hear all the time was suicidality, not suicides. And a lot of people take that and they call it suicides, and these rumors take on a life of their own. And because these trans activists are always looking for something to shut down conversation, because they know as soon as they have a conversation, their whole ideology falls to pieces. The number one thing they always say is that kids will kill themselves if you don't let them transition. Why do you want kids to kill themselves? And what does the average person who has no data about this say to that? They can't really say anything. Yeah. So it's just a thought-stopping mechanism that they use. It's a tactic to stop conversation.
Chris, for people watching, should I just send them to your website? Because
BillboardChris.com.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
I've got a bunch on suicides there.
Yeah, BillboardChris.com/the-studies, but there'll be a spot there. It's well organized. I've gone through your website. Last time we did the video, I went through your website. It was very, very helpful, good information. You don't try to, you use, quote, their studies. It's not like a bunch of right-wing outlets or anything like that. It's a lot of good information on here. Whenever, if you're actually presenting any information in a conversation, let's say just at the dinner table, you're having a conversation, one of the worst things that you can do, unfortunately, is to somebody that's more closed-minded, is give them a conservative outlet or something. Fox News, check this out. They're whatever, that's Fox News. You have a lot of good information on here that people wouldn't say anything like that to. So you did a great job putting all this together.
Yeah. And the study I reference on that page as well.
Yeah.
And then there's a link to a spreadsheet of all these different studies into gender dysphoria. So all these studies point to the same result, which is that 90% of the time, kids with severe gender dysphoria from a young age, not this craze we're talking about today.
For sure.
What's happening today is something totally different. But real gender dysphoria, when it affected 1 out of 30,000 kids, 90% of the time, they grew out of it. Best study we have, the most recent one, followed boys for 20 years, but before they did all the drugs and everything, 87.8% of the kids grew out of it, and 63.6% grew up to be gay. So what does a leftist say to that argument? And I say this all the time, and it's true. All the studies point to this. A lot of these really effeminate boys grew up to be gay. Now this ideology is telling these kids that they're trans, and it's putting them on puberty blockers, and they're going to have a micropenis for life. Whereas they would have just grown up to be a beautiful, happy gay man. Now they're harmed for life. These kids who go on puberty blockers at the beginning of puberty, called Tanner Stage 2, the president of WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, is on video. This is a transgender person. It's a man who says he's a woman, Marcy Bowers.
You're pretty good at that, by the way. I always get tripped up, and it ruins my whole...
Trans-identified male is what I use. He just says he's a woman. But anyway, Marcy Bowers admits that literally 0 of the boys who started on puberty blockers at Tanner Stage 2 have ever been able to have an orgasm as an adult. So they are destroying the future sexual function of these boys, many of whom would grow up to be gay. And
when they're not even sexually active, they're
this.
Trying to get them to make decisions about their future sexual functions as an adult. Who in their right mind says yes to that?
What 10-year-old boy can even understand with them?
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah. The parents will tell you, oh, they're super aware. They're super smart. This lady in this video makes the argument that her 13-year-old, I think it was, she was saying how smart her 13-year-old was, and they're totally able to make these decisions on their own. You know? But that's what these people believe. Your average Joe can be won over with that argument, Chris. 100%.
Yes.
These people are lost. They're finished.
And the average leftist is immediately won over by that argument. I did it just today on campus at FSU. It works like a charm.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty effective. It's pretty effective. That's a strong one.
And it's true.
Yeah.
And it's true. And I've seen this shift in 2.5 years. No one was talking about this 2.5 years ago. Hardly anyone was talking about it a year ago.
Right.
In August, I met with some staff members from the House Oversight Committee, one of the most influential committees in Congress. They didn't want to touch this. They just wanted to talk about men and women's sports because they felt that was more of a winning issue.
Right.
But now look where we are just 7 months later.
Yeah.
So I know you're black-pilled, Lisa, but I'm an eternal optimist. I know we're
really
going to get
bad.
there.
Dude, Chris is over here just dropping white pill bombs.
I know, please keep throwing white pills my way. But I think the pictures of like the mutilated forearms and what they actually do to these children, I think that really helps people. I think that when we're like, this is, you're taking skin from their forearm to create these fake reproductive parts, right? People don't even know what goes in and goes into these things and how you have to like keep certain things open and clean, and how
it's horrifying.
It's actually like, it's like Dr. Frankenstein medicine, and people don't understand that that's what it really is. And if people actually listen to their 10-year-olds, I mean, I have a daughter who's almost 10, right? And if she had her way, she would never go to school, eat candy like all day long, never eat real food, right? Like just dart across the street to go run and see your friends without looking. I mean, that's what kids do. They have my 6-year-old is more concerned with tying his shoes than he is with like what gender he is. It's wild to me that these people are forcing this on their kids. But the reason is too, like you brought up a good point to this, but they also are seeing people like Dylan Mulvaney and make this fantastic life for themselves. Okay. Dylan Mulvaney was a regular quirky gay guy who got nowhere, tried a couple things to like be on The Price is Right and get his 15 minutes of fame and Ellen. But the minute he puts on a dress and says, oh, wait, I am one of the most oppressed groups, then all of a sudden he's moving 5 different times, staying in the plaza, going to the White House to speak with people, having this big show and radio musical. And they're like, you know what? I'm miserable. And if I get these hormones, then I can do this. And then I can go on TikTok and get all the licks and the likes and the clicks. And then I can go be famous too. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge social media component to it that because we're lying to these people and affirming them all the time, it's encouraging kids to do it. It's actually, it's intriguing. And that's why like the LGBTQ stuff has always been rainbow and glitter, because it appeals to children and they like it because it has something to do with their mental wellness and their arrested development at whatever age that they had some trauma to become that way. Well, right,
Lisa, it definitely, like on the individual scale, it for sure adds to, kids are looking for attention. They're looking to stand out. They're looking for popularity, whatever it may be. And within their own friend group, if all their other friends are saying that they're one way or they're going to be, transvestites, whatever it may be, kids want to be included in something like that as well. So there's definitely a social aspect to this, but also they, winning those kind of victim points, that's happening across the entire country because they see, Dylan Mulvaney figured it out for himself. He won victim points with millions of views. On the individual scale, kids are finding that out as well. Maybe not views, but there's victim points within their own social, circles.
And they're being protected. Like you look at that Jeffrey Marsh and he's clearly exhibiting extremely predatory behavior, but because he's lumped into this umbrella, right? And the pedophile or the groomer, like the groomers can hide in this. They are free to hide in this too, which is bringing
in Minecraft.
Yes, Minecraft. Sorry.
I don't know. Can we say that on YouTube?
I don't know, but I'm saying like the problem is that you're also providing shelter for these type of people who are also looking to do even more nefarious things. And the lower the more we lower the age of consent for medical procedures, along with that, if you are capable at 10 years old to understand that you need to be in a different body, the logical argument that comes from that is that you will be able to also consent to what you do with those parts, right?
For sure.
We are going down a really dark road really, really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's already, the stepping stone before that was was pushing for protecting, quote unquote, so like saying or getting children included in the LGBTQ plus whatever community is getting them familiar with radical gender theory and all of that stuff. Those were all the stepping stones before this. Once you can get kids saying that they are that, telling mommy, hey, I feel like a girl, that's when you start making the push towards those surgical procedures. Once you start going there, you go to the next spot. They're all just stepping stones that head in this horrifying direction. You guys, I wanted to pull up really quick we have groups in the LGBTQ plus YA XYZ 1 2 3 4 5 communities, and they are pushing against the release of the manifesto. And I don't know if you guys saw that, but that's been a big push. And I'm gonna say that word that I just kind of like basically forbid a second ago. I'm not even sure if I should be. Gays Against Groomers, the organization. Our organization strongly supports the manifesto being released. Unlike other national rainbow orgs, the public deserves to know the truth no matter where it leads. Why do you guys think that they're trying to... Are they trying to prevent the manifesto from being released, or do they actually have to basically keep it private until the investigation's finished? I mean... what's your guys' thoughts on that? Because I was kind of thinking that seems a little bit suspicious, but I don't know if there's like an actual rule against releasing that. Do you guys know?
I don't think they've kept other manifestos. Maybe they have kept them secret, but we've seen other ones right away. I know that for sure.
Right, and that's why that was confusing, because I saw that and I was like, I don't know if that seems like an excuse, but perhaps it could be a state or county or city-wide policy or whatever it may be. But they are yet, unless I'm wrong about this, they are yet to release that manifesto. And I think a lot of people, we have suspicions about it, right? Targeted a Christian school. One, there was a reason for it, aside from what we probably think it was. But there was the no security, no imminent threat when she got to that campus. But also, the possible retaliation towards Christian children, Christian people going to a Christian school. That is a possibility. I don't know if we have that confirmed anywhere just yet, but it is important to see if this was actually like an anti-Christian terrorist attack.
Well, there is tons of anti-Christian sentiment from the trans community. It's out there all the time.
Yeah.
It's just widely in the world. I saw the other day on ChatGPT, it won't criticize Muslims, but it will happily criticize Christians. Christianity is the one religion that everyone can dogpile on and get rewarded for, but we can't say anything about any other religion.
Right. It's constant. It's every single TV show. The dumb character that's on the show is going to be like some super religious Christian. It's in every aspect of your life. They are going after Christians. They're bullying Christians. They're painting them to be these intolerant, idiots, uneducated, whatever it may be. But yeah, Chris, I think your point about that, it's not that people are just like totally, oh, wow, we're all taken aback. This is super random and this would be super out of the blue. It'd be like, well, no, there's a ton of anti-Christian rhetoric coming from these radical groups, right? And of course, not everybody that's trans that says that or is actually like saying that they're a transvestite or whatever believes this or is super anti-religion or whatever it may be. But it's super common within these radical groups. That's why, it's important that the people know what they're up against, because the media is pretty much just saying, they're painting it like, oh, it's a person that just went to the school. That's all it is. When it could be a lot more.
And it's not just the odd person here and there with these extreme views. I'm out in the real world experiencing this all the time.
For sure.
There's a good 8% of the population who are pretty radical, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yeah, it's a ton. You guys, we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to pull up a couple really bad takes, and then we'll finish it. I don't even know if I pulled up that many. I had this one from Piers Morgan. I'm so sorry. I actually like Piers, not because I agree with him all the time. I largely disagree with him, but I think that he's super entertaining. This is an awful take from Piers. A common L from Piers Morgan when it comes to guns in the United States and just talking about Second Amendment rights. Yesterday, 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults were murdered in the latest U.S. school mass shooting. The district in Nashville, Tennessee, is represented in Congress by Representative Andy Ogles. Is that how you pronounce his last name, Ogles?
Mm-hmm.
Ogles, this was his family's Christmas card last year. What the hell does this have to do with a homicidal maniac shooting up a Christian school, murdering 3 9-year-olds? He literally pulled up a photo, says, this guy, his family owns guns. And
I would fire him.
If that family was at that school, maybe, especially at the front door of that school, maybe we wouldn't have this problem. Like, I don't understand. Like, let's take all the guns away from the good people, because the bad people, the guns exist. They exist, and they're always going to exist, right?
They're always going to exist. So the argument is pointless.
Right. They're always going to exist, and the bad people will find a way to get them, right? No matter how illegal they are. So let's disarm the good people with guns. And I know that's like so cringe to say, but it's true. And we disarm them and just leave all these, let's have the cartels. The cartels are running roughshod all over our border, bringing fentanyl in, right? Fentanyl is illegal to sell on the streets, yet it's pouring over our border. You don't think guns are going to do the same? Like, this is such a retarded argument.
This is one of the worst takes that I saw today. And I was just,
it's terrible.
It's horrifying that he even puts these people in his crosshairs, this family. It's like, they look like they're having a great Christmas. Leave them the hell alone. Quit tying them to this disgusting psychopath that murdered children. Like, what the hell, Piers Morgan? But also the idea that if we were to get rid of these, I say that actually a lot in my videos, and it's actually kind of a mistake because it's not possible. There are tens of millions of semi-auto rifles in the United States, and guess what? There are over 350 million firearms in the United States. So that ain't happening. It's not a conversation. It won't happen. And yes, sure, if it did happen, it would do literally nothing because you didn't get rid of the homicidal maniacs, you idiots. And Piers Morgan, this is the best argument he can muster. Hey, look at this family enjoying, the law-abiding citizens enjoying their firearms on a Christmas. Bro. What the hell?
Can I make this like really probably far out there kind of thing? we've seen the left now. This happened in Tennessee. Tennessee's the one that's been passing the legislation. Daily Wire's doing like wonderful things in Tennessee to stop this nonsense from happening in Tennessee, right?
Right.
And we've seen now multiple outlets today bash the members of Congress, bash the legislators, bash the Daily Wire, bash anybody that's doing anything in DC. Does anybody else, because I am, as we know, a crazy conspiracy theorist, think that like maybe these people are put up like to do this? Like they identify people who are weak, right? And they are incentivized or pushed to do this just so they can go and change the narrative and be like, you know what? This is what happens when you implement these things, and then scare other legislators, because the last thing that legislators want on their responsibility plate is for to have dead kids on their hands. And that's what they are trying to, like, that's what the media, the left, they're trying to put the blood of these children's hands on those legislators. And sometimes to me, it feels like, okay, out of nowhere, this happens to be in Tennessee. Like, I just don't trust anybody anymore. I certainly don't trust. I mean, look at our FBI was trying to kidnap Governor Whitmer.
Well,
right?
I was going to bring up, Lisa, I was going to bring up that exact case. I was like, you mean like that, right? Is that what you're getting at? You mean like that? No, I don't think it's far-fetched at all. And I think when you're...
I'm not saying that that's what happened, but like the you know, like the spidey senses are like something's really even further off than I think that we really know about.
Well, and I totally understand this concern. And I think that it's not far-fetched when your goal is control by any means necessary. Look what they're doing in front of everybody, tearing apart the country, and all for political gain. If their goal is by any means necessary disarming you and controlling you even more, why would I don't see why that wouldn't be a potential factor. Now, I don't have evidence to point to that aside from the Whitmer. I can't even talk right now, but the FBI one, that would be an example of something like that. And there's a handful of examples of just horrifying stuff that our government has done. I wouldn't put this. I wouldn't put them above that, is what I'm trying to say.
Guys, we have a cult in our society. Big picture, we have children being indoctrinated. They're being taught evil ideologies instead of the truth. That's the number one big problem, is what all these kids are being taught all throughout society. Until we get rid of these false teachings, these false and harmful ideologies, we are never going to be done with these problems. You don't have to recruit individual kids, because out of such a wide number, when you indoctrinate them and you teach them this evil, well, some are going to snap and some are going to lose it, and they're going to do this. But overall, they are teaching these kids to hate Christians. Some of these teachers are doing that, and the culture at large and their whole group is doing that. So we have to, like what different parent groups are doing, we want our kids to be educated, not indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And with the decline of traditional religions, well, anytime there's a vacuum, that vacuum fills up with something. And as Christianity has declined, that vacuum has been filled with postmodernism, where truth is subjective and you can change your sex. And that's the number one big problem today. So we need to replace this false teaching with a new positive teaching. And so that's going to take some work, but we're going to get there.
Last white pill of the night. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for...
You guys, we're going to be wrapping stuff up. I'm going to leave it open to the chat and see if they have any questions and stuff in there. If you guys want to put anything in the chat right now, we'll go ahead and talk about that for a quick sec. But Chris, last white pill of the night, man. It was ending that on a good note.
I'm like the black pilled miserable one.
But... So look. But I'm at a university today. I got nothing but support. All the guys supported me. Almost all the girls supported me but one. Or they just didn't want to talk. But they're getting it. So, and the guys have always gotten it. I've never had one strong athletic guy give me a problem in 2.5 years.
But and
these young guys get it.
About it.
Yes, but so what the trick has been is they silence them all. They're too afraid to talk about it, because these are young people about to embark on a career, and they know if they speak out against this, it's not safe, and they're blacklisting themselves. But as we make the cultural shift towards people being able to talk about this, which is already happening, these young people are going to be able to talk about it more, and we will get back to sanity. As we've seen in other countries, they've just done away with this quick. My whole job is just getting enough people outraged, really, that eventually these medical bodies can't continue to ignore the evidence. And one day this is all going to come crashing down. And we will look back at this in 10 years and say, remember that mass psychosis about transitioning kids? That was crazy. And future generations aren't going to believe this. But apart from that, we've got other issues going on that we got to fix.
Right.
I do want to say one thing. I see a lot of people always saying homeschool your kids, and I do that.
I know. Like, I was going to bring that up too, Lisa. I'm glad you brought that up.
So, I mean, I really isolate my children. They're in a Christian classical school. This is nothing. This is never on the radar. This is not what they talk about. And my kids, you can immediately tell like the difference between my children, especially when they interact with other children that go to different schools. And my point is that even if you do homeschool your kids, and that even if you do send your kids to, say, a Christian classical school where this doesn't even enter the realm, they still have to go out in the real world and live, and they have to interact with these kids, and they will go to basketball practice, and they will, see things in Target. And if we don't, even if you do homeschool your kids and you do send them to private schools that don't do this, your children have to be in the real world at some point, and they will get to them. And if you shelter them from it without fixing the problem, I don't think that I do think it's good to homeschool and to send your kids the type of school I send my kids to, just because of the education benefits that they receive. Right. However, it doesn't mean that it's not a bigger societal problem and you can just run away from it by homeschooling your kids or by
I think fight for the school district that you have. Fight for the school that you have. Don't just, I think if you want to homeschool, that's fine. I know that I don't have kids, but I'm going to be standing my ground and there are school districts. There are school boards that are conservative. There are new school boards that are conservative. And there are school districts that, the people that go there will be more aligned with that. You can protect them in those very delicate years and not send them. I mean, I would imagine the kids going to school in like Portland are totally screwed. Really quick, I just wanted to say this really quick because you guys were talking about this. It's going to be funny in 100 years when they are like, I love how people tweet like they're talking. It's going to be funny in 100 years when they are like, a major catalyst for the Second Civil War was when Democrats demanded the right to sterilize children and amputate healthy body parts, but faced opposition from Republicans. It's like, you guys are talking about, and when they're reporting on this in the future, it's like, holy hell. Anyways, you guys, we'll any other things in the chat? I think that's pretty much it. Anything? Have kids. Too many conservatives aren't having kids. WTH. Yeah, James. I need to find a girlfriend first.
Get going. Yeah, get going, James.
I work so much with the channel,
I keep telling him, find one, I'll help you.
I'll go shopping for a girlfriend later this year. Probably go to like Trader Joe's or where do girls hang out?
Go to church. Find her at church, James.
Church. Lisa, thank you. See, Costco too, though. Costco as well. It's not
James,
overlooked at. There's girls at Costco.
James, if you want to find the hottest, smartest women, just put on a sign that says children cannot consent to puberty blockers.
Yes, Billboard Chris. That is absolutely correct. You can find somebody that is going to be a warrior and stand by your side and fighting the crazies. Anyways, or maybe that's just...
Let me know when you're at Penn, the University of Pennsylvania, because that's my alma mater and I'm right down the street. And so you let me know when you're there. And
she went to Penn State. She's lying.
Ew, no, I didn't. Stop that.
I promise. I tell her that. She gets so mad.
I'll be there again at the end of June. End of June, I'll be there.
All right. Hey, well, you guys, really quick, where can everybody find you? Lisa, go first.
Oh, I'm just on basically any more Twitter. Lisa Elizabeth at Lisa Elizabeth. I also am helping out with Real American News. That's on YouTube and Facebook, I believe. I'm giving comments on old videos, and then that's basically it. You can find everything in my link tree on my Twitter bio at Lisa Elizabeth.
Right on. Billboard Chris, where can people find you?
Twitter mostly at Billboard Chris. Now I'm censored, so you have to adjust your settings to allow sensitive content. You have to do that through logging into the web. And you have to enter your birthday. You have to be 18 to see dangerous pictures of me standing on the street.
Horrifying.
But I also do Instagram a little bit. I've been negligent lately, but I'm getting it going. It's at Billboard Chris and billboardchris.com. And if you want to support me, there's a donate button on there. That'd be great. Yeah. But just keep having conversations, everyone.
Awesome. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. What was that, Lisa?
So I feel like everybody's been neglecting Instagram lately. We were just talking about this the other day.
We were talking about this today. I literally, or maybe I was talking to somebody else about it. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, Twitter's just been popping off. Chris, we got to get ALX to tweet at Elon Musk to see if we can fix that. ALX has been working magic lately. So anyways, you guys, thank you for joining me in this important conversation. I really appreciate it. And also, I did put both of your Instagram and Twitter pages in the description below. So if you guys want a quick link, go ahead and hit that. Thank you guys for joining this stream this evening, and really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to leave a comment once this video is posted and stuff, and letting me know kind of what you think about it. We're thinking about doing these Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to shoot to do a stream this Thursday, so I will make sure to let you guys know ahead of time. Stay tuned for that. But you guys, everyone have a great rest of your night. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon.